Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. Today we are cooking once again from Vivian Howard's Deep Run Roots because I had a great garden this year that gave me a lot of stuff, including some Sun Gold cherry tomatoes, which I was starting to be inundated with. And I realized when going through the tomato section that there's a recipe specifically for Sun Gold tomatoes. So today we're going to be making chilled Sun Gold tomato soup with lots of summer stuff. And she says this is not a gazpacho, and in fact it is a sort of strained soup. We're going to strain it. She suggests straining it. You don't have to if you really don't want to. And it's made with these Sun Gold cherry tomatoes. I have mostly Sun Gold, but I have a few of these Midnight Snackers, which I planted sort of one plant of, whereas the Sun Golds I planted four, and it took me maybe a week to gather enough for this recipe. So they were, once they ripened, I brought them in a little early, let them ripen on the counter, and then when they ripened, I threw them in the refrigerator so I could make sure we had enough for this recipe, because it does take quite a lot of tomatoes. I didn't have quite enough, so we threw some of the Midnight Snackers in here. But we're going to use those. We're going to use some onion. This is yellow onion, just diced, since it's going to be blended and strained. You know, just cut it like you like. Some garlic, which I also grew this garlic that's just been smashed and peeled. I kind of got an idea that I would grow some garlic last year, and so I put some in some grow bags, and we got a decent harvest. Wasn't the best, but it was certainly more than I started with, so I'm happy about that. And they're very juicy, so like there's a lot of liquid still left in them compared to the stuff that you usually buy at the grocery store, which has probably been dried out a lot more, which I'm sure as the time goes on, it will probably dry out more. But right now, it's very juicy. As far as other non-liquid ingredients and non-garnish ingredients, we're going to be using a bay leaf and a little bit of, or what does she call them? She calls them chili flakes. So crushed red chilies, red chili flakes, a little bit of that. So we're going to get these cooking on the stove. The only thing we're going to add to this is some olive oil and some water. And this is going to be the base of the soup. You don't have to add anything else until it's time to blend. So, meet you over at the stove and we'll get cooking. Now I have my olive oil heating in a Dutch oven, or basically any pan that will fit this would be fine. And I'm going to add, I've got it on medium heat. I'm going to add my onions first. She doesn't say sort of what heat to use, but we're just looking to sweat these at this point, so medium sounds good to me. You need a 4 to 6 quart saucepan or a Dutch oven, so this will be plenty for this. Adding in my garlic and some of the salt in the recipe, but not all of it. Because like I said, we're sweating it, so we're going to add salt. And at this point, I think we're going to cook these, she says about 10 minutes, I guess, until the onions are starting to turn translucent. But I'm just going to sit here and make sure they don't burn for like 10 minutes. This has been 10 minutes cooking. Only just now starting to get a little bit of browning on the bottom, and that is not what we're going for, but I think medium was probably the right call here. And now we're going to add a few other things. They're going to add our tomatoes, and I'm really hoping that these tomatoes don't end up making our soup look funny, have a weird sort of brown tinge, but we have what we have. So we put all of our tomatoes in there, and they're cold, so they will kind of take a little bit to come up to temperature. And then we're going to add the bay leaf and the red pepper flakes. And now I'm gonna go measure our water in this. Now she says 5 cups of water or just to cover, so we will see what 5 cups does. I think that's basically just to cover. So we're gonna get that going. Now we wanna bring this up to a boil, so I am gonna turn the heat up on this, but then we're gonna reduce it to a simmer. So we'll bring it up to a boil first. It took about, I don't know, 5 minutes or so for it to come up to a boil. But now that it is starting to boil, I'm gonna just play with the heat until we can keep it at a steady simmer. So we want it not to be, boiling hard, but we do want it to be simmering good, not just like an occasional bubble here and there. We want a steady simmer. So I'm going to sort of keep it where I know it will be simmering for about half an hour, or until this is reduced by half. So I'm not sure that will take only half an hour, but we'll see. Medium heat will probably be about where I am with this, but we're gonna leave this uncovered because we do want it to reduce. So we're gonna turn off the cameras because this is the very boring part of cooking. We shouldn't have to worry about this burning or anything like that, but we just want it to simmer for a while. And we'll let you know how long that takes in just a second. My soup here has been cooking for an hour, so I checked it at 30 minutes, and while it might have been okay, it certainly was not reduced by half. I think we're still not quite there, but we're gonna call it good for now. You can see that the tomatoes have all sort of popped, so the skins are separated, and the soup has taken on sort of a gold color, and it definitely has reduced some. Whether it is the 7 cups that she says this will be when we're done, I feel like it's more than that. But whatever it is, that's what we're gonna have. We can always boil it down later if we feel like it's too thin, but I think it'll probably be fine. What we need to do now is turn this off and let it cool down just a little bit. Now she says we should use a blender. I'm not a fan of doing that, and especially since we're going to strain this afterwards. Anything that my immersion blender does not blend up well will be strained out. So I'm gonna use my immersion blender, blend this up with a few other ingredients, and get it chilling. We probably won't be eating this until tomorrow because it's getting a little bit later already, and this has to blend and strain and chill, and then we have to make a garnish, and I don't think I'm gonna do that today, but we'll see in a second for the rest. Oh, but before I do that, while I'm here and while I see it, I'm gonna take out the bay leaf because that's the one thing we do not want to blend. So, see you in a second. My soup has been cooling briefly just while I gathered the rest of the ingredients. So we're supposed to transfer all this stuff to a blender. Ain't doing that. I already said that, but we're gonna add the rest of the ingredients for the soup itself, which is the rest of the salt in the recipe, some sherry vinegar, I have not measured yet, but there we go. Some buttermilk, which I have measured. I use a whole milk buttermilk usually just because that's what I prefer. I don't usually like skim milk anything, so. And then I'm going to use the same thing to measure out some heavy cream. There we go. Good enough. So that looks decent. And now we have to blend it all up together. There we go. So I'm going to remove all the stuff that doesn't have to be here first, so I don't knock any of it over. So now I'm going to just blend it all up as smooth as I can with this. Soup's feels maybe a little thin, and I certainly feel like it's going to more than fill my 8-cup measuring thing, but oh well. I've cooked it longer than she said, and it is what it is. So now I'm going to go get my ladle and sort of ladle it through this fine mesh sieve into this measuring cup, just because it fits, and it's supposed to fit all of it, but I don't think it will. And you can see that I don't have a super high-powered blender anyway. I don't have a Vitamix or anything like that. So you can see there are a few little pieces of maybe seeds or skin, and this should catch all that. I'm happy because it looks like my Midnight Snackers did not make it have a very ugly, off-putting color. So it is mostly the sun gold color that I was expecting. Now normally we would taste a soup at this point before we serve it, but since this is going to be served chilled, you definitely want to wait until it's cold to adjust the seasonings, because it's going to taste different when it's cold versus hot. Usually you need things to be a little more amped up when they are cold. So you might need more salt. She says you might need more sugar. You might need some sugar because there's none in here. Cream or vinegar. So we'll see. And also it depends on your tomatoes. So you can see there's a lot of solids in there that we are straining out. But I'm just going to keep adding more. Pushing it through. Strained my soup. I think we got maybe 2 cups more than the recipe says. It's fine. Now I got to chill it. So we'll see you tomorrow when we're ready to eat it. It's the next day, and we are ready to eat our chilled soup that's been in the refrigerator for a while. We'll get that in just a minute, but first we have to make the lots of summer stuff that is sort of the garnish on top. So we're just going to stir all of this summer stuff together in a big bowl. So I've started with the corn. So I've got corn, just cut off the cob, sweet corn. This is not cooked, it's just raw. And I've got that in here. I've got some tomatoes. These are roughly the same amount of all of these large diced things. We've got some tomatoes. I'm using a slicing tomato that I had. Whatever you like, you want them, if you're using grape tomatoes or cherry tomatoes, you just want to cut them a little bit smaller. I diced mine. That's what I happen to have. Diced peaches or cantaloupe. I'm using peaches, and I did peel mine. You probably don't have to, but my family is a little weird about the peach skin. Not me, but the rest of them. I have some diced cucumber. I'm using the pickling cucumbers because that's what is still producing for me. All right, now we need some chopped or torn soft herbs like basil, mint, cilantro. I'm gonna just tear some of this basil up. and guesstimate the amount because I just don't want to chop it up and I don't want to measure it. So I've been doing a lot today and I am just done, and I still have to wash some basil and dry it, because my basil, if I don't do something with it at this point, will be going particularly downhill, and I'd like to save some more for the winter. All right. One more. Oh, and I'm only wearing a glove because I hurt my thumb with a knife yesterday, and I didn't want to have to not wash my hand. So there we go. So these are supposed to be chives. I've got a little bit of green onion minced. I couldn't find chives. There was none at my grocery store, and I didn't feel like finding any. And I have been completely unable to grow them. I've got some salt here. I've got kosher salt. She doesn't say kosher salt, but that's, you know, what I usually use. And some fresh squeezed lemon juice. So I have a little bit of that left. And some olive oil for finishing. I'm going to use, I have had this for a while, and I did taste it to make sure it's not rancid. But this is a sun-dried tomato olive oil. It's the best stuff I have, and it felt right with this dish that sun-dried tomato would not be a bad choice. So that is all of the ingredients for the summer stuff, and we're just going to mix it all up and let it hang out, she says, in the refrigerator for about 10 minutes, just to let the flavors marry. So I'm going to put this in the refrigerator and get the soup part out of the refrigerator so we can taste it and see if we think it needs any more salt or sugar or vinegar or anything. All right, so we're going to dump all of this into one container, but I'm going to keep this for storing whatever's left because I know we're not going to eat all of this. Yes, that did in fact go all over my face. We just want this to be, make sure we get, you know, everything mixed up, especially since we were straining it and everything. We'd want it all to be the same, right? And taste it. Can't see anything in this huge bowl, but I'm going to give it a taste. Now that it's cold, it's at the serving temperature, we may need to add something. I think it is sweet enough. I do think it needs a little more salt. I'm not going to measure, but with my heart. I think that's good. Might give people the option of adding a little more lemon juice, but since there's lemon juice in the stuff on top, I think we're going to call this good. So now what we need to do is serve this in a bowl with the summer stuff on top and eat. So we will let you know in just a minute what we think and show you what it looks like when I serve it up. I don't have any beautiful bowls like she does, but it'll work. Whatever. So we'll show you what it looks like and let you know what we think in just a second. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, you watched me make chilled sun gold tomato soup with lots of summer stuff from Vivian Howard's Deep Run Roots cookbook. I liked this soup. I'm not usually a huge fan of cold soups, but I thought it was good. I think mine turned out still a little bit thin, even though I cooked it twice as long as she said. It didn't actually reduce, I think, quite as much as she said to reduce it. And we ended up with probably 2 extra cups. She says it makes 7 cups. I think we ended up with at least 9 cups, if not a little bit more. I had 8-cup containers and it wouldn't fit all in one of those 8-cup containers. So it was not 7 cups. If you like tomato soup, if you like a chilled tomato soup, this is good. All of the summer stuff, it made a nice little crunch to have in the soup. I still have some left. We're going to have to finish that up soon. The peaches were a really good addition, I thought. A little bit of sweetness. You could also use cantaloupe. I probably said that when I went through that. We don't really love cantaloupe in this house, so peaches were definitely the right call there. You can use any soft herbs you have. I don't know if I went through that list, but she suggests basil, tarragon, chervil, mint, and cilantro as all good choices. I can definitely see cilantro being really good with this, sort of take it on a little bit of a Mexican vibe. Yeah, I would have enjoyed that. We did basil because we have so much basil. And it is the heat of the summer and it is trying to get away from me and go bad. So anyway, if you like a cold soup, if you like a tomato soup, you might like this one. And if you do give it a try, let me know in the comments down below what you think. And if you've enjoyed watching me make this, give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, share this with your friends, and come back and watch me make something else next week. Maybe more tomatoes because we had